January 2023 was a pretty big year for you, Lonny. You were appointed the CEO role. You are also the president and a member of the board there for ReddyIce, for the board of directors. Was there not anything else you could fit in? Any more roles there with Reddy?
Well, we actually did. It's kind of funny you say that. I was within the first 90 days, I was the chief operating officer as well. So that was that there tells you what I took on right out of the gate. So, but yeah, no, it's a lot of it's a lot of responsibility. It's a privilege, and it's been exciting. It's been an exciting run for the last couple of years.
Well, with that being said, if you're the CEO and the president, and then you were the COO, did you fire yourself from that role?
No, I did not. We had to make a change, so we did that. But since then, we've restructured, and I'm still trying to shed some of those responsibilities, Ethan, as we
Yeah,
go. As we go,
understood.
I'm trying to shed some of those.
You know,
Understood.
Yeah.
we
Oh my.
people usually think of small businesses, folks having to wear many hats. Usually, we would think a large company like ReddyIce, you shouldn't have to wear quite so many hats, Lonnie. You gotta work on trimming
His
your hat
eyebrow
collection.
furl right there. He it said it all with his eyebrow.
Yeah. Look. That was like going from 0 to 100. So many people, maybe in Ready Ice, know, but many people don't know I was actually retired.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was retired. I had one of our board members, Doug Stoller, called me and said, "Hey, look, we need some help. Can I talk you off the bench?" And initially said no. I was holding my 2.5-year-old grandson at the time, and eventually it worked out. And I met with a lot of the leadership team and a lot of the investors, and it looked like a really good opportunity to come in and really help this group and teach the group what I have learned over 30 something years. I know, so anyway, I'm here and we're rolling now. So it's been fun.
Well, I have to tell you, you're not very good at retirement.
That's what my wife said. That's exactly
You're
what
gonna,
she
you're gonna have to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna have to work on that.
yeah, you're
I'm
gonna have
gonna-
to work on that. Like get
Yeah,
some self-help books or something like that. Retirement
yeah,
for dudes.
how to retire for real.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, for
exactly.
everyone watching, thank you for joining us for episode 21.
We're
Our
of age,
guest,
Jeff. We're of age.
we're of age. Our guest today is Lonny Warner. He is a seasoned business leader with extensive experience in supply chain management, technology, sales, and marketing. He joined ReddyIce, as Ethan mentioned, in January of 2023, and he has a proven track record of driving operational excellence and business growth. So, welcome, Lonny. My next question for you is. Um, Give us a little bit of an overview of your prior stops and how you see that playing into your role there at Ready Ice.
Wow. Well, first, thanks guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of your 21st podcast, and I agree with your statement. I think podcast and just educating an industry and getting communication and ideas out there really helps an industry grow and mature. So, applause to you guys for making that happen through this
Yeah,
forum. So that's
thank
great.
you. We've enjoyed doing it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Well, to answer your question, it's been an interesting journey. So I started off my career actually at Xerox Corporation right out of college. I had an information systems degree. Thought I wanted to get into printing systems and went into Xerox and spent about a year and a half, almost 2 years there. Learned the sales process. They had one of the best sales training programs in the country at the time, them and IBM. So that's where I got my sales background and experience and strategic marketing experience. And then, I left there and went into the supply chain industry and actually worked at a trucking company called Consolidated Freightways in Conway. Ultimately became Conway, but I spent several years there running and a terminal, doing sales and marketing, running a terminal, running operations, dispatch. So that's where my career in the supply chain logistics space started in DSD, local delivery. And then I got moved into the third party supply chain group, which was a tremendous opportunity to start solving, supply chain problems. You might know a few of my customers that we landed and operated. A company called Amazon. You might know who they are.
I,
Um,
I think
Google
so.
when we took over their support centers for all their network facilities across the globe. They had 11 at the time. By the time I exited Menlo in 2015, we had 28 globally we were supporting
Oh,
server
wow.
farms. Pretty cool experience. And then that led me into a role. They actually moved me into Emery Worldwide. Consolidated Freightways, Conway owned Emery Worldwide, global forwarder. Did global forwarding for about 3.5 years, ran a business unit globally. That was probably one of the most rewarding experiences because of the cultural opportunity, meeting different teams throughout Asia and Europe and Latin America, and
Mm.
having teammates from those cultures really. And I was young. I was probably in my, about that time, I was in my early 30s. And so for me, it was really a learning and development opportunity to learn cultures and deal with different people, which really helped me deal with different ideas. And so it taught me how to listen
Yeah.
and how to learn. And so that was a big one for me. And then Brinks. So most people, can see the last few years of my career. So before I went into private equity, I was a chief operating officer for Brinks. That was a turnaround, another great opportunity, turnaround, and we purchased and acquired Dunbar, which was a $400 million purchase basically, and had to integrate 100 and something locations into the Brinks network, which was a direct overlap. So that was a tremendous experience to integrate that many associates and facilities and really deliver the accretive value that they were looking for in that transaction. So that was a great experience. And then went into private equity and did that for a couple of years. And like COVID hit, and it was time to go ahead and just step away and retire. And so I hung up my cleats for about 2.5 years.
I was going to say, so you thought. So,
Yeah, here I am. Yeah.
so this was your first attempt at retiring. So you didn't have any other attempts?
No, it's what, I've been told that, I had a goal to retire by 59. So I thought I'd beat that goal by 56 and a half. And so, but I've been told it's hard to go from 100 miles per hour to
Yeah.
zero. And so we were doing, look, I started up a little LLC with a good colleague of mine. We were doing some teaching and consulting, and that was really good enough. But this opportunity presented itself, and seemed like I could have an impact. So I decided to take it.
Well, I've heard something to the fact that if you are if you want to get 0 to 100 miles an hour, you don't want to go 0 to 100 miles an hour in 2 seconds. You need to build that up, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's just not safe. I mean that literally. As far as trying to go fast, same thing. Like if you're going to be traveling 100 miles an hour, you don't want to hit the brakes full stop, right? You got to have an off ramp. You got to have something that you're going to put your time into and everything. So it sounds like you found some time to put it into ReddyIce. So
Yeah,
um,
for sure,
you,
for sure.
one thing you mentioned, and you're talking about the experience that you had with Asia and other places and different cultures. That's something that I had the fortunate I was very fortunate playing tennis in college and getting to know all these different people. I was the only American on the team, so all my teammates were from Australia, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil. So, and I had the opportunity to go to Sweden. I had the opportunity to go to Venezuela to be able to travel and see things through non-American eyes. But that was just the experiences that have impacted me the rest of my life. We do that somewhat in business, now dealing with Australia and Europe and other places. So, it's invaluable. So I would say anybody that has an opportunity to allow their children to go out, send them outside the U.S. Let them see things, not just through. Do you have any input on that?
Yeah, look, I would echo that. I've had my children travel abroad and what have you. One studied abroad, and so I would encourage it. Look, if you can get exposure outside of the U.S. from a lens perspective and really understand. Look, you have a different quality of life here. There's a lot of things that we take for granted that just don't exist every day, everywhere else.
Mhm.
And I just would say this: it puts you realize when when you're out international that relationships are everything.
Yeah.
Period. And so I don't care if you're in China, I don't care if you're in Singapore, I don't care if you're in Scotland, Ireland, it doesn't matter. Um, Latin America, especially, very relationship oriented. Uh, those are what matter most to most of those cultures is the relationships, and those last for life. So that's what I would encourage people to try to go experience. It's different.
I had another follow up with the different stops that you've been in, Lonnie.
Mm-hmm.
There had to be not necessarily buyer's remorse, as you move in between different companies, but could you talk to any of how difficult it was to leave some of those endeavors and then go into new ones? Because it sounds to me like you've jumped in. Did you ever have any regrets? And then just talk to some of that if you don't mind.
It's interesting. I actually did it. Had a really good mentor early in my career at Xerox. It was a young lady, and she basically young manager, and she basically said, "If you're comfortable, you're not challenging yourself.
Yeah.
So when you get comfortable and you don't have any anxiety or any kind of I don't know, you're probably not pushing yourself." So for me, it was terrific, right? So you think about Conway and the trucking. So running an LTL, I learned localized P&D. I did that for 5 years. Local P&D, dealt with union employees and line haul, local P&D delivery, route scheduling, the whole thing, right? Ground up. So that was great. And then when I moved into the supply chain, I could leverage that knowledge base, but then I had a much broader canvas. All of a sudden now I was having to do warehousing, had to do inventory management systems, had to understand, working capital and cash flow. How do you mitigate that flow and how many assets you have on your books? The real impact of the balance sheet, all those things. And then globally, how do things really move across and how do you streamline that across different stakeholders and what I would call gates across the value chain? And what is the value chain? So that was a great learning experience. And then that led me into the forwarding piece. And that was great because I didn't really understand that piece. And so I learned that, right? And then, I Brinks was an experiment. Okay. So
Hmm.
I learned this management system, this Toyota production management system, lean enterprise approach. I had went through kind of this whole supply chain from A to Z, from surface transportation to forwarding to inside the warehouse to global supply chain strategies. And I'd done it in the third party industry, okay, third
Okay.
party supplier industry. The question was, could I take all that and apply it to a completely different industry?
Yeah.
Mm.
So I took the Brinks job, knowing it was a turnaround, had never done one of those, kind of, and helping companies get their supply chains cleaned up. But that's not really a turnaround. That's just like making it more effective and efficient.
Improvement. Yeah.
Mhm. So I took that on to see if I could deploy my management system in a different industry. So, you think about the armored car industry, it's really the banking industry. And so, could I apply to the banking industry? And what was fascinating about the banking industry is the banks actually don't run their money processing in their vaults anymore. They just don't. At the time I was there was three. Wells Fargo had one facility, Chase had a facility, and U.S. Bank had a facility. Other than that, all the other vaults and processing centers across the country, which is well over 200, were being ran by third-party armored car company providers.
Okay.
So I had to learn how to apply that and fortunately for me, I had been in line side production, at the AT&T plant where I did a third party project. We'd ran line side production and manufacturing and planning. It was much adopting those same concepts, but just processing cash. It was just a different widget, so to speak.
Right.
And then the transportation piece fit. The only difference was I was doing it with people carrying guns. That changes your perspective a bit.
And it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Hey, look, it was always when I walked, when I would meet with a bunch of my, really good friends, it's so cash and guns, man, doesn't get more cool than that, Cash and guns,
Hey,
Well,
you know,
Well, then you came to the ice
and it did
industry.
get cooler. There you go.
Get cooler.
That's
That's
right.
right.
You
So
are you the type? I want to one other thing, and we'll transition. But you ever watch the movies, and you know how they're holding up these Brinks trucks or these armored vehicles, and you're like, that's not how it's done. You know, I mean,
there's no way. Yeah.
yeah,
Any
That's not
comment?
how it's done. That is,
it's not.
trust me. We got some stories we can share, but yeah, it's kind of interesting, but for sure. But so look, that's how all those different stops. They weren't really. They were all building, and they all had an element of leverage for me, and so it was a great ground that put me in a position to really be able to bring all those things to the table for the Ready Ice organization.
So let's take a minute and kind of talk about Ready Ice, the opportunity that you saw when you got that phone call and you were, kind of getting roped into coming out of retirement to come back to Ready Ice. What told you about your previous roles or jobs that you could have an impact? What were some things that you looked forward to?
So I'll just so I was meeting with so they'd give me a bunch of material to take a look at, right? And I was meeting with the CEOs of Stone Canyon, and the question they asked me was, "So what do you think?" And I said, "Well, that's a really broad question. What do you mean? What do you think?" And so they changed the question, right? They said, "Well, what do you see?" And I said, "It's what I don't see,
Right.
data." And they were like, "Well, what do you mean?" And so I walked them through a bunch of things and said, "Look, I don't see some fundamentals that most, just if you were running a trucking distribution company, I don't see some fundamentals that you would see in your data and metrics. You
Yeah.
just,
Right.
they're just physically not present in any of the material you've given me. So you can't possibly be measuring or driving it." So that just did a really short way to answer that question. When I realized what wasn't being done as far as things that they were measuring and managing, it became a really clear line of sight to say, oh, based on experience, I was like, oh, I there's some material opportunity here.
Right, right. So, as an industry, there are categories that are just sort of overlooked or unknown, and you see an opportunity to make a difference for Ready Ice, and that that sounds like a good reason to get back in the game. I think.
Was there anything with Ready Ice what you got into? I mean, I know what you were saying that when you were meeting, with the investment group, uh, but once you got into it, you're like, okay, well, I didn't know that. Was there anything that really kind of surprised you once you got into it?
Look, the turnover level of our employee base was a bit surprising. And so that's been rectified, and we're now running where I thought we should have been running.
Yeah.
So, and that tells you a lot. When you have turnover, there you got to really get into the systemic things. So those are some things that I wasn't expecting around what was driving the turnover, and it was really simple stuff, to be frank with you. And so
Yeah.
we fixed that turnover, and then look, I could see the out of stock performance. That wasn't surprising, but the turnover was really what was surprising.
Very eye
And
opening.
yeah, and then again, I highlighted it, the lack of some of the fundamentals that you would just have as in a trucking industry, delivery industry that weren't necessarily in play on a daily basis. So uh,
Yeah,
those are the things.
I would think part of that would be just a cultural expectation in the ice industry. Oh, we have a lot of turnover just because it's a seasonal business, no matter where you are in the country. So everybody just sort of expects it and lives with it, right? But
Yeah,
you're looking at it from the
that's how it was
outside going,
explained.
yeah, you're looking at it going, no, we don't have to settle for that. I
Yeah.
like it.
You don't need to do that. Yeah, that was how it was explained to me. Oh, we have peak season and off season. We have these shoulder months. This is how it works. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, all right. Well, so look, one of the things I learned at a couple of the different stops was there is a mathematical equation you can put to turnover relative service quality and profitability. And I'll share this on this podcast, but it's there.
Okay.
One of my CFO colleagues helped had developed it in a prior life that he had, and so it turned out to be statistically significant and true. And so when I saw that, I knew there was an immediate translation. So it was really pretty exciting to see.
Oh, that's pretty neat. So Lonnie, one of the things we want to give you your first icebreaker. So we're going to jump into an icebreaker question for you. So, from a collegiate standpoint, who would you say is your favorite college team or sport, or just take it away?
So obviously I'm a Sooner fan, and that's my two younger brothers that were with me. We were down in New Orleans when OU played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Turned out to be a really good day. And but yeah, I'm an Alabama fan too, so I was a little bit conflicted. I was hanging out with my daughter and son-in-law. They were wearing Alabama gear, and I was wearing Sooner gear. But there's my
I saw that. I saw this as we were scouring the internet for a
Mhm.
few different things. Now, this is, I think it was about 11 years ago, and then I even highlighted
Yeah, there it is.
as well. So it was.
By the way, Ethan, that's my youngest daughter, and she was number 79 in the state of Texas in tennis as a super champ.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. Well,
All right.
I'd had something I think I saw there that you're talking about tennis, so I was
Yeah,
hoping to chat with you a little bit about that.
yeah.
Did she go and play in college, or did she do intramurals there in Alabama?
No, she actually is my Boomer Sooner. She went to Oklahoma, ended up going to
Oh,
Oklahoma and got her master's in accounting. So she said, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to school. I think I want to focus on school and not tennis." And so she decided not to pursue it, and she got her master's, worked for Deloitte for a few years, and now is working for a private company and got it doing well. So it was
are
lovely.
you a tennis player?
I am not. I play tennis.
Yeah.
And I play tennis with her. I've not been
Yeah.
formally trained, but rumor
Okay.
has it I'm pretty good for a hacker.
You're not too bad. So, are you a pusher? Or are you a power player?
No, I got top spin and all, man. I'm all
Okay.
good.
All right.
I'm self
All
taught.
right.
I actually it was funny when I was playing. I played college basketball. Part of my training for lateral movement was tennis.
Oh
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Well, like my training for tennis, I did indoor track and things like that. So,
Yeah,
to be able to get there, because you're a tall guy, and I was going to mention, I want you to give your height here in just a second, but I know you said those are your two brothers, but I would
yeah,
probably say those are my two shorter brothers if it was me. So.
yeah. They're pretty good sized fellows. One was a all state power lifter, and the other was an all state football player. I was an all state basketball player, but they're pretty hefty fellows. I don't mess with those
Yeah.
guys.
How
Yeah.
tall can you go? What's your height?
Well, I'm shrinking these days, Ethan, as I age. It happens. So I'm running around 6'3" and a quarter now. Back then, you saw that picture. I was probably closer to 6'4", but yeah, that's
Hmm.
how
Well, in my research on a couple articles, I also saw that you dipped into Northwestern University, Michigan
yeah,
State.
yeah.
Do you follow them at all, or you? And also a follow up. You ready for the tournament?
So yeah, pretty much. I love the NCAA tournament. I think it's great. I really start watching then, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
the regular season's like a play in deal. I'll pick up a few games. I'll pay attention to who's winning, but yeah, I like the tournament. And look, I think this is probably as wide open of a year as you're going to see in the tournament. Any of these guys, even somebody that's maybe even that were somewhere in the preseason or postseason rankings before the seeding, somebody in the top 10. I mean, you could have number 10 or 11 could win this thing because it's just that close.
Yeah.
It is. I'm an Auburn fan. I've got two daughters currently at Auburn. That's the reason you're ripping my heart out wearing the swoosh A there. So, but yeah, I think it's wide open. Florida's looking really good right now. I mean, they've just finished the season. I mean
Yep,
they've
won the
got
tournament.
they've got like
Tournament.
four. Yeah, they got four guys, the Sequoias, man. I mean, those dudes are huge. They got size, length. I mean, they got guards, their coach. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So anyway, I'm still pulling from Auburn Tigers. So we'll
Guard
see
play,
where it goes.
guard play usually wins it though. Less turnovers, good ball handling, kill
It
kill
does.
shots every now and then. Always make a difference.
It does. It does. Were you a spot up shooter?
What's that? Oh, I was
Were
a scorer. No, yeah, I was a scorer. I was a two guard. I was a scorer. That was my. I busted zones and
okay.
yeah, I was a scorer. That's how it didn't matter. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter where I was. Now I can on the move, standing still. It didn't matter. I get the score.
Awesome.
Well, we like to mix up business and pleasure and family and all kinds of stuff. So let's take a few minutes and we have a couple photos of your family. We'd like to just flip through them and you tell us about your family a little bit.
Oh, sounds good.
Tell us about where you were at here in this one.
So this is my lovely bride of 34 years, Kim. We're in Lake Tahoe, and this is on would be the south west side of the lake. Beautiful area, beautiful. If you like hiking, you got to do it.
Mhm.
There's some really cool history. If you research the Lake Tahoe Basin and how it was created, it's a phenomenal story. What I find amazing about that lake is it's over 1,600 feet deep and it's natural. It's
Yep.
crazy.
And it's
Yep.
so clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
As we were getting ready for this, the podcast with you, I told you I separated my shoulder in a skiing accident. I was at Heavenly, so it is.
I've skied heavenly.
Yeah, so you just pouring more salt. First it was Alabama. Now you're bringing up pictures and talking about Heavenly or
Yeah,
Lake
it's
Tahoe.
He had a great time at Tahoe.
He had a
What-
great
What are
time.
you
So,
doing?
but there were several people that reached out to me about my shoulder, and I am healing up. Thank you for those concerns and everything. But I'm hopefully good to go in about 5 more weeks. So, but I
Good to
agree
go
with
back
you.
to the ski hill.
Oh, I'm going to be back there. There is no
Dude,
doubt.
look, it's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful place to ski for sure. Yeah.
72 miles you can drive around. I don't know if you guys took the full trip all the way around, but
We've been
uh,
around it for sure. Yeah.
yeah, you were down near the area, I think, where they have that single island. Is that right? Where is it the Wahoo Indians?
Mm-hmm.
And they still have several events and everything. And there's a story about a lady that came over and she built a house there, and the amount of money. It's just really cool. If you've never been to Tahoe, try to make it.
We hiked all week long, and we hiked all over that on the north, the east, you name it, we hiked it, and beautiful place.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Another beautiful place, Jerry World. That's Jerry World.
Yeah,
So
hobnobbing with the big guy there. I mean,
yeah, we've had a really long relationship with the Cowboys. ReddyIce has, and I happened to build a relationship with Eric and Mr. Jones and Steven, his son, that really runs the operations with Eric, and so. They said, "Hey, why don't you come and bring your family?" And so Mr. Jones, I was telling him about my grandson when I had met with him earlier in the year, and so anyway, he was pretty excited to meet Asher and meet my family, and a really nice gentleman, and obviously we're huge Cowboy fans, so that was a fun day for the kids and Asher.
well, self-serving. Which one of these was the tennis player?
The one on the far left, that's Sarah
Okay.
Kay. She's about 5'10".
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. That's good size.
she's a beast at the net. Let's put it that way. Volleying was her game, that's for sure. She could get up there and volley.
Volleying was my kryptonite, but I came. It was all, when I was playing. You were moving away from the net, and it was about baseline. So that's
Yeah, she can do baseline. She's actually left-handed, but they taught her to play right-handed, Ethan. And so
what?
her backhand was a monster.
Oh, I bet it was, but man, being left-handed
Yeah.
in this, it's just the way that the serve, everything. I think you can be the exact same player on the left and right. I'm talking about all the same shots, but
Yep.
you're 20% better because of the spin of the ball. You see it so infrequently, just like baseball.
So anyway, it's a lot of fun to watch her play. This year is in Maui. We love Maui. We've been there. I don't know how many times now. Kauai, Maui, Big Island. We've been all over. We actually were on a whale tour this past. This is December of 23, and this is the crew. My granddaughter, grandson, and everybody. So out on the water watching some whales, and we were really fortunate. We had they can't chase them really. We had about 7 whales come within, probably, it was kind of scary for a moment, within probably 20 or 30 yards of the boat. It was kind of cool. Yeah, you could hear them breathing. It was really cool.
Did they smell?
No,
No.
no,
Yeah.
No, we had 5 males chasing a female is what they told us, and they were putting on a show, coming out, jumping out of the water and everything, kinda crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's
You
going
know, this
on?
is when I was retired, so this is a little bit of an older picture. Kim and I went and so when I retired, I had bought a fifth wheel. We had a 40-foot fifth wheel. We were just taking it all over, and we went down and spent 10 days at Big Bend National Park. And all I can say, if you've never been there, that is a majestic place. I can't even describe it other than that. It's crazy. Desert landscape all the way to pine trees and 8,000 feet, mountains, and then to go down and see the sheer cliffs on the other side of the Rio Grande is just phenomenal. So would highly recommend you spend some time at Big Bend. But that's we hiked all over, hiked 5.5 miles, 6 miles a day, and just had a great time. Beautiful place.
All right. Well,
So
fantastic. So we got a couple of pictures here. So tell us about your work family that you got going here.
Look, this is our ReddyIce team at the headquarters in Dallas. Great group of people. They all want to win, and they'll do anything. It's kind of like that teammate on the left and right. They'll do anything to help them on the left and right. Really enjoy this group of people, and that was a picnic that we had to celebrate our employee week. So a lot of good people.
very cool.
And then this is in Colorado, outside of Lake Tahoe, and that's many of the industry folks might know Jake King Gilbert. He's been around a little bit. You guys probably know Jake, and that's Christina Olson. She is on our sales and marketing. She's a VP of sales and marketing for us, and these two are being presented their Lean Leader Base Camp Award. And so one of the things that I have installed since I've been there is Lean Enterprise, and there's a formal process. There's about 12 different modules that we take individuals at a self-pace. They learn at a self-pace, and they learn Lean Enterprise, how to solve problems through process and methodologies. And these guys are being presented their base camp. And so there's 3 levels. There's base camp, there's pinnacle, and summit. And so it was a lot of fun. That was at our strategic meeting, and they were being presented. So really, we got a lot of really talented team members, and those are just some of the moments from that.
Yeah, well, fantastic. And I have to admit, that picture that we just showed of you, I mean, you're looking pretty fit there, Lonnie. So I want to ask, do you have hobbies, interests outside of it, outside of work?
Yeah, look, I love. So my wife and I love to hike. We like to play. We like to play a little golf. Um, we love sports. We're outdoors people, though. You won't find us sitting around watching a lot of TV. It's not what we do. And so very very fitness oriented and family oriented. So we get out and do stuff. And yeah, I've been very conscious of my health all my life, quite frankly. And maybe that comes from Ethan. Maybe that comes from playing collegiate and sports and stuff. But yeah, I just
100%.
don't let it go. I'm running around 6'3", 215. That's my goal.
Yeah, well, you and I'm 6'3", 220. So you need to be my mentor. Help me get down to the 215 playing weight. So yeah,
Uh,
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Those are just one of the few things that I learned in my athletic career was discipline. And I mean, not that I'm always on there. I still like junk food on occasion, but I still need to have the spice of life occasionally and eat some of those things.
So
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask.
it's not what you do occasionally; it's what you do regularly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. I wanted to ask. You've talked about basketball. You've talked about tennis, golf.
Mhm.
Do you play pickleball? If you were going out to the courts today, would it be tennis or
I got,
pickleball?
I got a paddle. I got pickleball shoes. We're in a pickleball. Our little retirement community that we live in as a pickleball league. Oh yeah, but look, I go in. I go in. I'm going to have fun. I'm not going to try to win. I'm not going to try to win. When
Right.
you
Okay.
smack a ball against a lady that's 3 years older than you or something, you're like, no, I don't.
Well, we can't play together then.
I'm just out there to have fun. So I don't. I just play to have fun
So
out there.
So what you're saying is you'd rather play me than to play Ethan. That's what you're saying.
Well, I can play Ethan too. I just don't like to pick on somebody when I know they don't got a chance. It don't.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
well, no, I agree with that. Now, I may still hit them, but I may not pick on them. I mean, it may be accidental. Well, it took me a while to get over that stigma of being a tennis player and going to the pickleball realm.
That's funny.
But quite frankly, the level that I was playing, I know it sounds a little self-serving, but the level I was playing at tennis, I couldn't compete with some of the 20-year-olds and everything that I was having to go out there playing USTA. So I went over and played pickleball and started picking that up. And the best way anybody's ever described, if you've not played pickleball, is like playing tennis, but it's like you're being set on a ping pong table with a paddle,
It
so
is.
that's the best way to kind of describe it. And it is a great way to get out there, but I do think it's an orthopedist's dream, because people get out there, they think they can move, and you still got that 0 to 100 we were talking about earlier. You still
Yeah.
got to take it in small dose to build up.
I got 2 knee replacements from college basketball, so I'm out there having. I'm just out there cruising around. I'm not out there trying to kill things. It's just a lot of fun. It's fun, It's just a fun game. I like the scoring system. I like the whole kitchen piece. I like all that. That's what I think's fun about it. So
Yeah. Well, if your daughter though, if she's playing pickleball, her volleys, that's you can't get on top of the net though. You got to stay behind that kitchen line though. So takes a little bit of that out of it. So
she's really good at pickleball, though. That's what's crazy.
I bet.
well, next time if we're in the area, if she's around, we need to bring her paddles. So if you're in Alabama, if I make it out to Dallas or we're at a show, we need to coordinate and we need to find a pickleball court and
Sounds good.
we'll have some good we'll have a good time. So
Sounds good. Okay.
so if you were not a businessman, because you're an entrepreneur. Yeah, you've worked in corporations, but I hear entrepreneurship, even that you've been working in these companies. If you weren't a businessman, what would you be doing today, Lonnie?
I'd be somewhere. It's great. I'd be somewhere in some type of ministry role, or I would be in some type of teaching role. To be honest
Wow.
with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mhm.
So we're both believers. I'm interested to hear if you want to talk about that anymore. If you are saying that you could see yourself in a ministry role.
Yeah, no, I've done. Look, I'm a believer in Christ. I've taught Sunday school and done different men's leadership programs, support different programs. You're always looking for what your gift is, and so
Sure.
been doing all that stuff. My dad was an ordained minister. He did outreach and he supported. You know, People need to go on sabbaticals, take things, and so he would backfill them. But what I think the thing that it had a big impact on me when I was young is he did prison ministry.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are some pretty cool stories, and so that's when I kind of started thinking about if I didn't do what I'm doing today, that's what I would go do is
Yeah.
teach and try to have an impact on. Really, it's about people that haven't probably. It's not some of these people made bad choices, but sometimes it's around just not being around the right people to influence them and
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
lead them the right way. So that's what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing what I'm doing today.
That's
Very
what
cool.
I've tried to do, or at least I have found a lot of enjoyment in coaching my kids, but also being around their friends or teammates, in the local leagues or travel ball, of just trying to be a good example to them, because not all of them have great examples. Of look, you can say from a Christian perspective or a religious perspective, but just having a father figure around, or
Yeah.
trying to teach them leadership, or
Right.
I mean, I've got, yeah, you just tick them off, all
Yeah.
these different.
Look. I don't care if it's business, personal life, whatever. What does good look like? And people can model what good looks like.
Sure.
Well, I don't know that I've said this on the podcast before, but I very early on, people are like, I can't, like my kids were like, I can't be perfect, Dad. I'm like, granted, perfect doesn't exist except for one individual from a Christian perspective, uh, but the pursuit of perfection does exist. So we can always push forward, whether that's work or whatever in our life. We can always have that pursuit to move forward. So,
Mm.
but I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, one
So
of the things that we're teaching here at ReddyIce and that I teach everywhere I've ever been is a lean principle. And you guys can share this with your audience. Perfect is the enemy of better.
Yeah.
mm,
So what you find is people try to be perfect instead of just making incremental improvements to try to be incrementally better. Just chase incrementally better every day, and one of the admirals of the Navy shared with our team once at Brinks. Look, I don't need to be the best ship in the fleet tomorrow. What I need to be is the best ship, and if my guys and gals get better every day at one thing, we'll end up being the best ship in the industry, in the fleet.
Yes.
right,
So that's
right.
it. It's perfect's the enemy of better is what I would coach your listeners on.
Yeah. 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 That
Well,
pursuit for sure.
and to that extent, we did plan to ask you if you were giving advice to ice companies today, and maybe you just let the cat out of the bag there, or maybe you have something else that you would say in 2025. What would your advice be to ice companies out there?
Look, I think there's an opportunity. Having only been in this industry for a couple of years, I would. One thing that I've noticed is I don't think the industry has done a really good job of communicating their value to the marketplace and to our customers. I think a lot, whether I don't care if you're Ready Ice, Home City, Arctic Glacier, any of our small co-packer business partners or others, I don't think the industry has done a great job in educating the consumer, the customer base, that we provide tremendous value to them. And so I think that's if I could give them one thing to work on is how are you communicating the value of the ice industry to the local communities and those companies. That's a look, you you see it, right? I'll give you an example. You see it, right? The news comes on and you're in some city and somebody's like there's tons of heat and people are dying of heat stress related illnesses or whatever.
Hmm.
Hey, you see it. We're providing a material item to prevent that. And you can see literally, medical service guys are using it to try to cool people's bodies and things of that nature. We provide a lot of value beyond just that one extreme example, but everyday life, we provide value. And I just don't think we do a good job in communicating that value. I think the industry has let the marketplace almost make us a commodity. And I think we're bigger than just a commodity if we educate the marketplace.
Right. What I just heard you say is what Jeff and I are doing is bringing value to what you're talking about earlier with the podcast. But on a serious note,
Mhm.
the last few episodes we've touched on with this podcast talking about social media.
Yeah.
Several companies are getting a bigger social media presence out there,
Mhm.
and I think, like you said, taking it just from being a commodity to the value that you're bringing, as an ice company and all the different components to that. So I think that's we're seeing that more and more, and the messaging is getting better and better, and people using social media platforms to get that messaging out.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah, I agree. Look, I'll just add to that. Look, we're looking at all those options as well. I think that's just in general. So if I took that statement, Ethan, and
right.
just said, look, I think the traditional uh, platforms that communication happened, I think social media and the different venues that are out there have completely changed the game. You can see that from news industry to whatever. And I just think the teams and the companies that get on that faster, just the more benefit they'll have by doing that. So I echo that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think something you brought out, Lonnie, I think if you look at social media from ice companies today, they tend to echo the days of the past where ice was presented as good times, grab a beer, special events, and kind of the easy go-to. But to your point, how do we market the value of emergency situations, or how dry ice could be used in some situations, or block ice might be used in some situations? There's a lot more to the industry that can be communicated. And
Right.
so ice companies really should ask themselves, how can we paint ourselves with a different image than just grab a beer at the lake out of some ice, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, I think it's the biggest opportunity for the industry is to educate the marketplace on the value of the ice industry for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Yep.
could get the IPIA to get a Super Bowl, ad spot for 30 seconds.
Wow, I don't know. That's a lot of money.
But
Let's make
yeah, I was going to say blow the budget for half a
all,
century. So.
all in 1 second.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, we've got two more questions. Can't believe we're
Sure.
already at the end of the podcast. So,
Yeah.
last icebreaker, and then Jeff will wrap up with the last question to you. But if you could pick one team and only in one sport to win a championship, who and why?
Alabama basketball,
Uh,
right?
I'm going to find a trash can to vomit in. So,
Wow, that's a great question. Um, look, I would tell you I'd like to see. I don't know the team, so I'm not going to pick the team. Here's what I would love to see.
all right,
I
all
would
right,
love to see a West Texas story,
okay,
Wesleyan, Texas story. Back in the '60s, I think it was 1967. They beat the Giant, right? They come in, they're nobody, right? They come in and they beat Kentucky in the championship, right? Totally unexpected, won the national championship. I'd love to see a Virginia Commonwealth. I think they made it to the Final Four here a while back. Right? I'd love to see one of those teams just go all. And I'm not talking about like a Villanova. Those aren't Cinderella stories. Those are pretty.
yeah, that's right.
I'm talking about literally somebody is just like I said, West Texas State or just some small school.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd
Well,
love to see a 16 seed go all the way through and win the whole darn thing. Like a
we'll let that
Richmond
one
University
slide.
or something. Yeah, I'd love
We'll let you slide on that one, but I don't want it to be this year, Lonnie.
it.
Let's make next year.
That's
So
right, you're Auburn. I
yeah,
get it.
I mean it's the best opportunity that I think Auburn's going to have. Not that they're going to win it, but hopefully they'll get a shot at it. I just don't want that 16 seed, especially playing because they start with Alabama State, which won the playing game last night. So Auburn
Okay.
starts in
Hey,
state.
Chuck will be there. Chuck will be there. He'll be cheering them on, man. He's going to hope they can get something done.
He'll say something inappropriate, but that's he's our Chuck, though.
He
I mean,
is.
he's
He's
awesome.
Chuck. He's Barkley, no doubt. That's fun.
Well, thank you for let's have a little bit of fun on those questions.
Yeah.
So the last serious question for you, we want you to just tell us, what do you see as the future of the ice industry? What do you see, from all your experience, just looking at the next,
And I think you've
decade?
touched on quite a few of these elements
Yeah.
already, but we just wanted to give kind of a wrap up question to you.
Yeah. I think there's going to always be. You're always going to have pressure. The traditional ice industry model, in my opinion, is going to continue to see pressure from any type of disruptive technology. And that could be through how ice is made. And Gary and I have talked about this at Modern and other ice manufacturing equipment companies. There is going to be a breakthrough. It will happen. It's just a matter of how and when. And I have some ideas on how that's going to happen, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
you don't have to give away all trade secrets. We
Yeah,
understand.
I think I think I see how that's going to happen. And it's a scaling issue right now for some, but I do think there's going to be continued. There's going to be either a technological entrance or there's going to be a disruptor that comes from outside of the industry, outside of technology. So a company. So think of to give the audience a framework of that. Think of Amazon. everybody was just Amazon's a book company. No, they're now the biggest retailer
Yeah.
in the
Right.
world.
Distribution. Yeah.
So there will be so just understand there's going to be a disruptor. And so, the challenge for all the ice companies and listeners out there is, how do you skate to where that puck's going to be, not where it is, and how do you stay ahead of that? That's going to be the challenge. And I think I think there's going to be pressure from outside of the industry on, you got to make ice. You got to make ice that has less impact on the environment and carbon footprint and things of that nature. So, look, I think it's a great opportunity. I think the industry is a very stable industry. Uh, Look, it's proven ice is needed. It's just all there is to it. It's not replaceable. So it's a matter of the how and the what, not the product itself. So.
Well, outstanding. We really appreciate your time, Lonny, to join us on the podcast here. We value all our guests' insight. We know that you're a busy person. We appreciate you taking some time, and we hope to see you in the near future. And we are coming from the RouteMan Studios at the KCS headquarters here in Pelham, Alabama. And again, Lonny, we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah.
You're welcome, guys. Be safe. Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. Bye.
Bye.